Howdy, y'all. I'm Kurtis Sunset.
And I'm Leah Halston.
And this is Weathering Rainbows. Howdy, y'all, and welcome back to another episode this week on Weathering Rainbows. Today, we wanted to do a little more of the actor vibe, as we have one of our first actors on the show.
Yeah.
I got my my Indiana Jones last minute. I even got a whip. So.
Oh, you have props. Right. You bought props?
I just randomly saw that. Okay, my room is decorated in horse theme and stuff. So I was like,
okay,
there's a whip. I got to grab that.
Okay. Well, I don't know who I'm dressed as, but I went for a classic.
Yeah.
Joan Crawford, Norma Desmond. But I also bring props because you can't go to the movies without popcorn. And
yes.
I love to eat. So, yes.
Love it. Yes. And you look like you're about to just win an Oscar or something.
Well,
so, you're like.
Honestly, Halle Berry, however she pronounce her shit, she just posted, it's been a couple of years since a black woman have won, an African American woman have won an Oscar.
Yeah,
she was the last one. I think we got you,
y'all.
We have to do our research. Help us out. Post on the link.
Yeah,
and help us out.
Let us know. We're like the worst gays ever right now. We don't know who won the Oscars and stuff.
I just know she just posted because I follow her, Halle Berry. She said it's been a while since an African American person have won an Oscar. Yeah. So please tag us and let us know.
I'm giving the Oscar to Leah Halston. What is her address to the audience?
I would like to thank the Academy for giving me this award in my performance in the movie Don't Sleep. This was a new role for me. I want to thank the producers for believing in me. I want to thank my family. I want to thank the fans for believing that I can do this movie. Don't sleep.
That's very impactful. and then I would stand up in the audience and be like, "She stole it. She stole that. This is rigged."
I know y'all want to know. Okay, I'm not in. I know you guys want to know what the movie Don't Sleep is about.
Is this one of the movies that they have their own special types of award ceremonies?
It is a international independent movie that I got hired for. It was a camera in my room after a night of drinking and partying saying, "Don't sleep."
This sounds like a thriller, like you maybe went to an Airbnb and you got caught on camera type of thing.
Yes, don't sleep, honey, because they're watching. Yes,
always.
Honestly, what I would love.
Speaking of sleep, before we go into any more movie details, so I slept over at Leah's house for the first time, which is shocking because I don't know why I haven't before. But y'all, I know now why I won't do it again unless I control the thermostat, because my ass woke up and was freezing cold. So
because I'm from the South, so I grew up with fans. We didn't have AC. So in the summertime, people say, "Why don't you run your AC?" I didn't grow up with an AC. I have fans, y'all, in my house. One of my girlfriends came to my house and said, "Girl, you got a fan in every room." That's how I grew up. I grew up with no shirt, shorts, sleeping with no covers. This is how I grew up. And as an adult now, this is how I'm raised. I don't need the AC. So I turn it off, and then I realize I'm in Kentucky. I got company, and they're freezing. I walked into the living room, y'all. Kurtis was balled up under 2 covers. I have little throws on my couches. This poor baby was balled up.
Cold.
Kurtis was balled up under both throws. I was like, I feel so bad.
It's so cold. And when I woke up, I was like, oh, I know what she was trying to do. Because there was this little straight boy. I'm pretty sure he was straight. I don't know. But there was this little straight boy there. And all of a sudden I wake up and he's on the couch with me. And I'm like, it's okay. It's for survival at this point. It was so cold.
See, I tried to hook it up for you. I tried to make it happen. Because he was so hot. I said, I have to turn down the heat. Because it was so hot. Honestly, I don't know if I saved that video. We have to post the video.
Uh-oh. As long as it doesn't appear in your breakout movie, Don't Sleep.
You got to do it right. You got to pause it and say, and look into the camera and say,
oh, yeah.
Don't sleep.
Don't sleep.
What would you star in? What would you? Okay.
Oh my goodness.
I think. Okay, I'm gonna tell y'all before he even answers. It's going to be a romantic, not movie. It's going to be a romantic. Okay, tell us. Because you look amazing right now as Indiana Jones. You look amazing.
Do I pull off the Harrison Ford look?
I wish I could do an Australian accent because you can pass off as Australian too. Yeah.
There you go.
Mate. That's the only thing I know. Mate.
It's a mate. Yeah. If you say mate, you're Australian. I think that's automatic. Hey, an Australian boy is what made me gay in the first place. I'll tell that story. There used to be this show, it was some strip show. I don't even know, on MTV or something a long time ago when I was a kid. And this one boy was an Australian fisherman, and a blonde, hot, big, burly, muscular, and I'm not even into that really, but back then I was.
Well, Hugh Grant is amazing. And since we're on the discussion of movies, let's talk about how talented these actors are that are from these countries. But when they speak in movies, they sound normal. Adele...
Right? I mean, Tom Holland when he plays Spider-Man has got the American accent. So
he would, of course, Kurtis would pick a twink.
Of course, it's Spider-Man. Give me a break.
Okay, honestly, my favorite Spider-Man is not Tom Holland. Mine's is my favorite Spider-Man is Andrew Garfield. Is that his name? Okay,
yeah,
but he was a twink too. He
Back
was
then,
a twink.
He still is, honestly.
He was a twink. Yeah.
And then before him, you had Toby,
who was hot.
Back then,
he was hot.
Now he's daddy stage. He's he's in his 40s now too. So
I get disappointed because there's some scenes in the movie. If you pay attention to the movie, I think I'm a pervert. I look at the baggage and I'm like, oh my God, Toby is so hot, but I bet you he don't have no meat.
Ooh. There we go. Toby's going to cancel our show. He's going to come out of the woodworks and be like, wherever they are, cancel that show.
If Toby's listening to this show, please knock on my door and prove to me you don't have no meat, honey, because I will be waiting on bended knees, honey.
Oh my. And there's the theme of Don't Sleep.
Oh, God.
If I was in a movie, it would be probably an adventure movie, honestly. I don't think I would do a romance because, I am not big into, the kissing scenes and stuff like that. That's more of, you love the kissing and all that. And I'm just Now I want like
Yeah.
adventure. Like let's go on a wild journey to throw the ring into Mordor. Or something.
But what
like,
movie have you
like
not?
something
What
wild.
movie have you not seen that had the movie is so good, and then here comes the make out and the kissing scene. I'm like, girl, we're in the middle of a disaster, and y'all in love, and y'all kissing. I'm like,
I mean, what else can you do if you're? I mean, you might as well have a little romance if the world's coming to an end.
Well,
you know?
I'm gonna tell you this: I am the worst. I love movies. I'm a movie nerd, a TV nerd. I watch movies for the bloopers and the flaws. Y'all would hate to come to the movies with me because I'm gonna be like, first of all, I know this is a movie, but this is I'm gonna tell you, this is my biggest pet peeve, y'all. Pay attention to the driving scenes in every movie. Why is some person driving and then they're having a conversation like this and still driving? That is my biggest pet peeve. You cannot drive with your head turned. No.
Unless it's one of the modern day movies where the cars drive themselves.
Unless it's a Tesla.
You know, it could be, right? Things have progressed, like some cars drive themselves now.
I watch movies by myself because I am the biggest critic about, okay, I know it's a movie, but how the fuck are you, like, I don't get some shit that they do. And I know it's TV, but yeah, it's crazy.
See, and I'm the same way, like, especially since, like, I know about editing and stuff like that now. It's like, you should have edited that out. Or, like, like, kind of like the cup in, like, Game of Thrones that they forgot. Like, just stuff like that is just, okay. You can tell.
I've never told you this. I did a play over the pandemic, and it's called the Oriental. I forgot what it was, but I stepped in at the last minute to play the main character. I'm going to send you the link, and I'm going to be okay with you posting this because the person that edited this play made my death scene look fucked up. I've never reposted and talked about this because the editing that they posted on YouTube, I had this whole choking because I drank something. I got poison. I'm gonna set it up for you guys. I got poison, and I drank something, and I was supposed to choke, fall down, and that. When you see the clip, when I send this to Kurtis, I choke, and then all of a sudden, I'm on the floor dead. The editing is so bad. I never posted this, but I'm going to allow Kurtis to post this clip.
You didn't even have to act in this movie, did you? You just, like, went natural reaction.
I did. I was like, yeah. So I played, like, this diva, this grand, rich diva in this play. You guys, I will send y'all gonna see the clip. Please don't.
I'm gonna post this clip.
Please don't laugh and judge because when I saw the clip, I was like, I'm not posting this.
I'm gonna laugh and judge, and then I'm gonna make some comment on it and post it. Just like I did. Like Leah sent me all her fun facts this week, and I'm just like, okay, how can I just like, like Leah loves cooking, but don't forget to turn off the stove at 4 a.m.
You've been slaying me. How? Okay, first of all, let's explain that. I can't even explain it. How could I leave the stove? I have gas, y'all. I live in a house, have gas. Apparently, I was cooking the night before, and I've left the gas. I left a burner on the whole night up until the next day. And so Kurtis came, and I said, okay, let's cook. Was I cooking you something? What happened?
No, I was okay. So this was actually one of our mutual friends, LK's birthday, and so like I had went and got some gifts, and like we were signing them and talked about what we were gonna do for him and stuff, and like look over, and Leah's like got a fire going on her stove, and she's like, "Oh my god, I cooked hot dogs last night." And I'm like, at 4 a.m. you cooked hot dogs, and that stove has been on, and it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon the next day, so.
Yeah,
as you are lucky. That house, you did not want to light a match. I guarantee you that.
And it was on a low burn, y'all. It was not high burn. It was low. But how could I forget and leave that on all.
For the record, Leah normally does not forget to leave.
No,
you know, just since we just talked about foster care in this last episode, we may not want to like.
Yeah. What? Okay.
She's normally very responsible.
Okay, so change the subject. What are some of your favorite movies?
If we're doing Valentine's movies, I used to love P.S. I Love You. I really, really enjoyed that one. There's a kind of a one a lot of people don't know. I really love the movie Stuck in Love. It's got Greg Kinnear in it. Don't watch this one on Valentine's Day, but it was really really good, and it was awkwardly good. Like I did not expect it to be good, but Looks That Kill on Amazon. Like it was so good, and I did not expect it. So I like sappy romance type of movies on Valentine's Day. Something you can cuddle up
with
and
who?
Like just
with
be
who?
All, whoever I want. I'm single. It's Singles Awareness Day, but it's also like pick somebody you like day, you know? So
we have two different tastes on Valentine's Day. I personally go dark on Valentine's Day. I like watching My Bloody Valentine. I like watching, horror movies like Freddy and anything, because there is a such thing as a dark Valentine. Sci-Fi does a whole, the Sci-Fi Channel does a whole like dark Valentine's Day of killing people and stabbing people. And
those movies that make your heart burst with love, right?
Yeah. So I tend to go dark with my choice.
Yeah, I can't do that. I mean, those are also, in my opinion, color movies because, like, I'm going to be scared and closing my eyes through all of it. So
exactly, have trade over, and then you're like screaming and falling into his arms, like, no, don't do this, no.
I don't think the trade that I normally bring over would like to see me in that role.
That was my rendition of what I do. Like I had trade over the other night, and we was watching something where they were cutting and slicing and stuff. So I'm all in his arms, like, no. I cover my eyes and I put my head in his neck and like, tell me when it's over. No.
See, as a big spoon, I'm just glad they can't look at me during those movies because my eyes are like clutched into their back like this, you know, like I'll protect you, but I'm not going to look at what's coming, you know? But
the boys love it. I love it. And we love Valentine's Day. So,
well, we will get into our Valentine's Day episode. We've got some love it or hate it things coming for our game in the next episode. Today we have the special guest is Andy Evans, who was the first gay kiss on NHL webcam, or not webcam, but Kiss Cam. So kind of in that Valentine's theme. We love to see it, right? We got the... I feel like I'm in one of them picture booths, you know, like just Leah's like making faces and like.
Okay.
On that note, he is the actor from 86 Melrose Avenue. Go check it out on Amazon. We have today with us Andy Evans.
Yes.
Howdy, y'all, and welcome back to Weathering Rainbow's interview segment, where we get to interview a lot of really cool people out there doing amazing things for our community. Today, we have a pretty special guest. We have Andy Evans. He is an actor, and he has a whole lot of firsts to tell us about. That is one of the main reasons we brought him on the show, because he was a pioneer in our world. So, Andy, will you introduce yourself to our podcast listeners?
Hello, how you doing? I'm Andy Evans, or also occasionally Evan Andrews, but that's not my choice.
How did that come to be?
Well, so I've always been in the acting world. I did my first play in a Catholic elementary school as Joseph in the Christmas play in kindergarten. So nice. I always loved acting. But no, when I got into Screen Actors Guild, after my first role, I found out you can have a couple of roles before you are required to. It is copyrighted. The names are all copyrighted. Like Julia Roberts, her real name is Julie Roberts. So, but someone had her name. Somebody had Julie Roberts, so she had to change it slightly to Julia. Um, but so someone has Andy Evans. Someone has Andrew Evans. They are like they're like a couple of one-liners in the '80s that they had, but they have the copyright to it. So I found out that I needed to change my name, and I was like, I don't want to make something up. So I just switched it around. I did Andrew Evans, Evan Andrews. I still felt like it was my name.
That is wild after like the Crucible where he's like, "What's in a name?" You know, like they're making you change your name.
And
So
and what's ridiculous is okay, the gay world, the LGBTQ, we have enough problems of identity problems.
yeah.
I'm still going through it because I don't know what name to call myself at the moment because they go through contracts are such they're so in depth and so much to the contracts that and there's an entire page on what you're going to be credited as. So every contract I've written in Evan Andrews and they have still so whenever they got to the credit section they forgot about it, so much going on in production. All of these productions have still credited me as Andy Evans, so I'm hoping I'm not going to get in trouble with Screen Actors Guild,
Oh
but that's
wow.
not my fault. I'm like, I wrote it in the contract.
Yeah.
So
Well, tell us a little bit more about your background, where you're from, and coming out process.
whew. I was Northern Michigan, tiny, tiny little town of called, ironically, Empire, Michigan. It's only a town of 300 people. Uh, kind of the perfect little like you think of like an American dream, tiny little town, like the white picket fence type thing. Everyone knows everyone's last name. You know everybody at the post office and the grocery store. There's one blinking red light uh, in the town, um, but it was beautiful because it can never get any bigger. It was surrounded by national park. One side water on Lake Michigan, and the other three sides are national park. So this town can't get any bigger. I think it's about 370 now,
Wow.
um, but it's just picturesque. Um, but not much for a young gay person. How when you start thinking those first thoughts and starting to know what you are, then it's like there's no one like you around here, or at least no one that is out.
Right.
Uh, um,
Now, you said that there was one stoplight, but how many churches were in this one town?
there were two. There were two churches, Presbyterian and Catholic. I grew up Catholic. I was an altar boy.
So
Yeah, yeah.
obviously, you're from this really small town, and you don't know any other really LGBTQ people around or organizations that are there. You're kind of going through this alone. What was that like? And then finally, how was it to come out to your family?
Oh, okay. I guess that I kind of so I was always into the arts world, acting. I loved music. I'm not a good singer, but I could fake it. And somehow I went to an arts camp in one summer in high school, and it was downstate in Michigan. Uh, it and being an arts camp, of course, there were many other gay people there, and it was the first time I was like, I can actually feel comfortable as myself.
Yeah.
And so I heard about this international choir. I was there for acting, but at the camp. But I heard that there was an international choir, and just the thought of going to Europe was just amazing to me. I was like, oh, I everything. I'm obsessed with history and architecture. Um, just the adventure of being able to go. And at 16, um, I did the auditions. It's a large, like 80 or 90 member choir, and they needed male voices desperately. So basically, they didn't care if I could really sing. They just needed the deeper. And at the time, my voice was changing, so I had a bass. I was a bass. I really, and they're like, "You're in, perfect, you're in." And I struggled with, so I really kind of just sang lightly. I just wanted to be in Europe. So it was a month-long tour, um, and we got to go to Germany, Denmark, and France, and we stayed with host families. Um, so maybe it was like 10 cities, and so we stayed three days in each city, and with host families, and so it's all the local choirs. So of course um, there were a lot of gay boys. Um, so I basically came out on that trip. Like, I told girls in the choir, um, that I was gay and everything. I had in two different cities, two host brothers that I had fun firsts with.
Right.
It was wonderful, and it was even romantic. Some of them wrote me for years afterwards.
Wow.
So every time I got a letter from that was different language on the title, then I would get so excited because I knew it was one of them. Um, but when I came back, I felt that gave me the confidence, uh, to come out to my family. Um, I don't I don't even remember if I wrote them a letter. I think they found something. I think they found something that I had written. I think it was probably to one of those host brothers in Europe, and uh, so they confronted me,
Wow.
and yes, I'm gay, and at the time I actually had met someone in. So our time was so tiny. So to go the real grocery shopping, it was about 45 minutes away. It's called Traverse City, Michigan, and so we had a 45-minute drive. So, but in this Traverse City, I found a young, uh, and thank God for it. It was a youth gay group that met like once a week, and there was a counselor. It was a therapist that ran it, and it was like a dozen people showed up every week. And thank God for that, because I was 16 and had no connection with anybody else. Um, but in that group, I found a boyfriend. And so they found out about that. Their reaction was, my dad was very strong about it. He came from a conservative family. I would say he's very liberal, but he came from a conservative background. So he just couldn't wrap his head around it at the moment. Um, and so their reaction was, you cannot live in this house and be gay. And I was just headstrong coming back from Europe and feeling that freedom. And I could not fathom going back into the closet.
Yeah.
I couldn't. And so I just was headstrong, and I immediately just said, I'm gay, I'm moving out. So I, s- I don't, I never say I was not kicked out, but I moved out on my own principles. Um, and I'm so happy I did, because I needed it for my freedom. It gave me a work ethic like none other, survival.
Yeah.
Um, because I was the top of my class. I was headed to be the valedictorian of my class. Um, so I was not one of the people that could think about dropping out. I I knew that it was part of my path for college, for everything else.
Right.
Um, so I put myself through high school. I lied and said I was 18 to be able to work at an all night restaurant. You had to be 18 to work at evenings or something like that. I don't know what the laws were. But basically, I worked the midnight till 8 a.m. shift serving the drunk crowd at 16. And, uh, the drunk after the bars coming in, and
Yeah.
just to be able to help pay for rent at the boyfriend's place. So I had to pay half of everything. And then I'd get up at 8, so work till 8, get to school at 8:30, come home, do my homework, go to sleep, get up and work at midnight. So I did that for I don't know, maybe a year or so.
Yeah, and I mean
Um,
that really goes to, it tells the story. I mean, of the struggle if you come out in a lot of people's minds too early. If you come out to your parents
mhm.
before you're out of high school, before you have any sort of safety net there, and so I think it's interesting. You're kind of telling us that in a way you are still happy that you came out at
Oh,
that age. Is that something that you still would recommend, or do you think that it depends on the circumstance?
every everyone's situation is different. I mean, if you are going to be in danger in any way, there are families that are much more conservative than mine was, and the reaction can be different. So you have to, if you're going to come out, put in place your plans, your backup plans.
Mhm.
What if you are kicked out? Have a place to go. Have a plan. Um, I mean, I had, it worked out. I had people on my side. I had that youth group. Everyone was supportive. Um, so I recommend it for you and for your growth, and for your soul. But make sure to be smart about it, because you at that age you're running on emotions and you want to be reactionary, but um, have the backup plan in place.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And, I think we all look for that kind of that liberation and freedom aspect of, finally coming out and being ourselves. But we do have to navigate that and be safe with those actions so that we don't end up in a situation where it does cause us extreme harm. Um, with that,
Yeah.
you've kind of talked about, how you felt in the liberation aspect, but obviously you still had to deal with family that they weren't accepting at the time. Did you also have siblings that felt the same way, or how was that?
So I think I did talk to. So I have one sister. I talked to my sister before my parents. She knew probably, I don't know, at least 6 months before my parents. Um, she of course was supportive. She supportive, did, she was there for me, and that was awesome. That was really, really cool.
That's great.
Um, I'm very so what I was angry at my parents was just basically the reaction at first. They are both amazing and supportive people now, but they were in an unhappy marriage. They made each other miserable, and so they did not divorce until the summer after I graduated high school. Um, and I found out later. I found out later in life that they were talking about divorcing when I was 5,
Wow.
and so they decided to stay. They decided to stay together for my sister and I, which is a noble, noble, amazing thing. I think that's awesome,
Yeah.
and it's noble. It's amazing that they did, and I thank them for a lot of that. A lot of we did have a lot of great family experiences, but my sister and I talked about what did we have of an example of love. Um, they they we never saw them kiss. I mean, maybe once in a while they did a peck on the lips, like for show. Um, uh, but we heard them screaming every night, you know. So it's a yes. We had dinner together every night at 6 o'clock, but lots of times it was that, what was that movie, American Beauty?
Yeah.
Did you see American Beauty? So it's that, like, how was school?
Right.
Fine. And
Yeah.
it was just staring, and no one wanted to say anything, and everyone was angry at everyone for whatever reason, and no one would talk about it. There was no talking. There was,
Yeah.
and it's just, uh, and
I,
I don't want to demonize my parents at all, because I have an amazing relationship with both of them right now. They after they divorced, they both became amazing people that I idolize.
right.
I love them both to death. But at the time, it was the circumstance. They were both so angry, and then it was let out on us at sometimes.
Yeah. I think that is a
Um,
great point for our listeners in the sense that, even though you are going something that's through something that's truly traumatic for you, you also got to realize that other people have their own lives and that they're going through equally as
Hmm.
traumatic things that are outside of the LGBTQ world. So whenever we do reveal this part to our parents, if they're already going through something, it can be that, the hypothetical straw that breaks the camel's back type of thing.
So,
Um,
yeah, they're gonna, when you come out, they're going to be reactionary.
mhm.
So the first things they say, it sucks because it's stuck with me my
It
whole life.
hurts. You get the typical, are you sure? Is this just a phase? Is it, they ask all these questions because,
I won't, because of the relationship I have right now with them, so I won't even say what they said.
right. And that's
they
totally
they
understandable. Yeah. I have a great relationship with my mother, and yet I've told her about things that she said in the past that were really harmful to me then, but I've grown to understand where she was at in her own life at that point. So for our young listeners, know
Mhm,
that just because they say something now and it hurts doesn't mean that
mhm.
they're always going to feel that way, or they actually even feel that way in that moment. It's purely reactionary. So I think that's great.
So I think it was probably, so my dad was very firm about you cannot be gay and live in this house. I think my mother, she, any mother just loves their kids no matter what. It was just her dealing with it. And I think she wanted me back in the house shortly after I left. And I think she tried calling and messaged me a lot, but I was focusing on what was said, the things that were said. And so I was just that stubborn, headstrong kid. And I was like, no, I'm not, and I'm like, not going back because I wanted to hurt them after after the words they said hurt me. So I
Mhm.
stayed away for a year. Um, and I was happy that I was strong enough to get myself through it. But it was Christmas of senior year that my mom finally, she was crying and she begged me to come back to the house. She said, come back for Christmas, stay we want you to get good grades for your last semester so that you can go to college and do all this. So she's like, if you screw it, your scholarships for college are going to go away if you get, if I get a D on, my last semester.
Right.
Um, so they invited me back for Christmas and I stayed. Um, and it was wonderful because there was a more honest relationship. Everything was honest and out in the open.
Yeah.
And then they divorced that summer. Um, because they're like, we got the last one. He's set. He's gonna go to college. We're done.
He's through.
So
Yeah. I get it. Before we go into a lot of the firsts that you have in your life, I do want to kind of touch on that topic of forgiveness. Obviously, you were invited back for Christmas, and that was still probably a struggle for you to come back and open back up to your family after having been through that rejection. Now, obviously, anybody that goes on your Instagram now, they can see that you are a proud gunkle, and that you do
ah,
have a relationship with your family. Tell us how you came
I,
to forgive.
it was really hard at first. Like I said, when you're younger, when you're at that age, you're just working so much from emotion. Everything ups and downs are just so dramatic and so so intense. um it was very hard because I'm a Scorpio. You go to extremes. And so I think it took me that year of being away and seeing the struggles that it does take just to support yourself and survive.
Yeah.
um it took me that year to calm down. um and I think it was when I was invited back, I think it was really seeing their struggles about uh, leading up to the divorce, um, that I came to think from their perspective
Yeah.
and to forgive. Um, so I don't know. I really, after they divorced, I got such a great relationship with both of them. They both opened up. I think they both went back to their like original, I think hippie selves. They were kind
Yeah.
of hippies back in the day, but they came from conservative families.
Right.
Um, so they came back to that loving, understanding spot, and it allowed me to open up and forgive.
Yeah. Tell us about life as a gunkle. I'm a gunkle as well, so I always
Oh,
like
so I
to bond
almost
over this.
so I'm over at my sister's house right now because he's has all the sound and all this stuff. He does some podcasts. So I saw my three nephews before they're getting read stories right now and going to bed. I almost had them come in. I'm like, maybe we should introduce them. They are so funny. They are five. They're 5, 7, and 9. Um, they like light me up. Like it is just so much fun. I'm an actor and I love to play. So I get down on their level and I imagination land. It's just amazing. And then also they're getting to have an example in their life of a gay person that we don't talk about it, but it is just seeing me be me is an example. I
Yeah.
think questions have come up uh, of like, oh, who's Uncle Andy or whatever. Oh, and they say whatever they'll say, whatever guy.
Yeah.
If I was seeing someone, or oh, he's going out with his friend and whatever, and there's like, so I think it's awesome that they're growing up uh, where we sometimes didn't have any examples.
Yeah. I
You know,
completely agree on that. That's I've had my niece and nephews over this past week, and there's I think 8, 10, and 14 and 16. I don't know. They change so often, but
oh my
there's
gosh,
a lot of them. I've got 6
ah,
total. But the youngest ones, the second youngest one actually found our Instagram the other day. And so he's been asking questions about, well, what's LGBTQ stand for and all this kind of stuff. So I've had to
and
kind of like do a little bit of
the
education,
rainbows.
yeah, to this 10-year-old. But more important to him, he watches our follow count. So like I'll get text messages being like, you lost 100 followers today, or you gained 100 followers today. So that's what he's enthralled
Huh.
about. Uh, and
Huh.
then the youngest one the other
That's
day,
interesting.
I took him to get some video games, and we're at this video game shop, and we leave, and he's only 7, and he goes, the lady in there sounded like a man. And I was like, okay, when we get to the car, I'll explain that to you. So, and, and so that was a fun
That's
conversation of, well, she was born a boy, but she feels like a girl, and she's becoming the girl that she is inside. And he goes, oh, okay. And that was the end of the conversation.
yeah,
So
and they're like okay with it. It's like, yeah.
yeah, it shows like
That's an
it's
interesting
all
one.
in training, education, and being accepting. They learn acceptance. So
One of the youngest one, he is obsessed with unicorns, and his favorite color is pink, and that's okay. And
yeah,
like they're raising them that without the gender norms. I mean, meaning that blue is boy and pink is girl.
right.
Um, so they're allowing things now. They're not going to the extremes, but they're just letting things be okay. I don't even know if he's going to be gay. I have no idea, but they're allowing things to be figured out themselves.
Yeah, and that's
So
great. That's a great way of parenting, and I can tell you've got a great family there that supports you on that. So let's go into you have had a lot of first, and uh, I'm going to let you go through them because there's a lot there.
yeah. Um, well, isn't it? I thought that was cool, isn't it? Isn't it? You guys it's the first LGBTQ podcast on Spotify with video.
Yeah, so we are actually a first as well. We are the
So
first
that's
video
cool.
podcast on Spotify, and honestly, I think we are still the only one. The last I've checked, so people
Oh,
can
that's
actually go
awesome.
and
So
watch us
this
there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to add this to my first.
Yeah.
But so so in so one of the first I wasn't the first person to come out in my high school. There was a guy and a girl several grades above me that did. And so that was very cool for me uh to know. And the guy was 2 years above me, and I believe one year we were in like a choir class together, and it was just cool. We didn't ever talk about it, um but it was just cool to know. It was comforting to see someone else like me, and that he was out and okay. um so I came out in high school after that trip to Europe. So I was out for my junior and senior years. um so I was the third person doing that, but I was the first person to ever bring same sex to prom. So this would have been back in I graduated in 2001, high school. So maybe in 2000, so I in junior year, I had a boyfriend and I brought him to prom, but we did it beard style. With
Right.
a we both had girls that we went with, and we kind of all danced together. Like, so I kind of almost got to dance with him and everything. And then so that was my junior year. We half did it. um,
Yeah.
and then and then my senior year we actually went together. We went arm in arm. uh it's a small school. I mean, there were 50. I graduated with 50 people in my class.
Wow.
So it's just junior and seniors. So there were maybe, and people brought people from other schools, so there were maybe 150 people at prom. um so you walk into a little restaurant. It's a restaurant that they hadn't removed all the tables and chairs, and there's maybe 3 steps down, from the entrance down to the floor where the our prom is. So we walked arm in arm down those 3 steps, and there literally was a visible whisper across the room. Like,
Yeah.
every head every head turned, and everybody whisper, 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 and everyone turned and looked, and they all went back and talk and did what they were. But we had kind of planned. All of my whole group of girlfriends had known that I was bringing him, and so they were so awesome and protective. They all danced around us, like, in case there were going to be
Wow.
any problems. We were farm country, and we were cherry orchards and cornfields, cherry orchards and cornfields. That's pretty much it. So there were lots of guys wearing cowboy hats at prom, and conservatives as hell, and every religion in the world. So we slow danced for maybe 2 slow songs. um and when you're far out and you're going slow around, and your view changes. You see
Yeah.
every single face looking at us,
Yeah.
every single head that is, in their dances, whichever one is facing, they're craning their necks and looking. So it was kind of awkward. We knew we were completely on display. We felt fearless, and we felt right. We felt supported by the girlfriends. Um, we danced. So we did 2 slow songs, and we did a few fast songs. We were in and out in 45 minutes. Um, we stayed. We did what we wanted to, and we left because we wanted to leave early. We didn't want any problems in the parking lot. We knew
Yeah.
that it was very, very possible. And uh, so this is what was I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about it. The cool thing about it was, afterwards I had two, within a month or two, the two following it, I had 2 underclassmen email me, and I had no clue they were gay. They just said, "Thank you so much for doing that." I never would have the I know, I would never have the courage to come out. So that beyond, like, made everything worth it.
Yeah.
Um,
That
And
is, that's, I want to just quickly pause you there and say, I can only imagine this was 2001 for those of you that are listening.
mhm,
This was prior to, you know, the ballot measures of 2004 and 2008 and all those things that were going on throughout the US that we are familiar with today. This was 2001 and I graduated in
mhm.
2008 and I cannot even, my school was 111 graduating class and I can't imagine even doing it in that capacity. So the fact that you did this in 2001, that, in my opinion, is a true pioneer and just ridiculous amounts of bravery from you. Um, so uh, kudos for that. I mean, I still had my fake
Well,
girlfriends up and through first year of college, so it's amazing.
yeah, I loved that feeling of being able to help. And I think that's what started me for the rest of my life trying to find ways to help people, to be an activist, to speak up when other people won't. Um, it's beyond necessary. Still, I mean, obviously, still today, there's so many
Yeah,
problems, but it killed me that and I can't put it on myself. I wish that I had somehow done that a year earlier because um, there was a guy that I ran cross country with, and I assumed he was gay, and I think he was. And a year before, and he went to my church. He was a Catholic at my church, and he downed a bottle of pills, and
jeez,
I went to his funeral.
wow,
So it's like you always wish that you could have been there for those people. But I'm glad that I was there for those other two.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's, it's so unfortunate. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I've I have had those similar scenarios, and it is difficult because you always do wish you had spoke up sooner, and had been there. But you also got to realize like where you were at that time period was already pioneering. You know, it was already,
yeah.
you know, there wasn't any role models for you to do these things, you know, so it's incredible that you
Hmm.
stepped up to the plate and was able to do that. I mean, the thing that was going through my mind as you were telling the story of the kids that wrote to you, I mean, that's the same kind of stuff that still happens to us today. You know, we get Instagram messages all the
Oh,
time
yeah.
about, I'm so thankful that we heard this story, because this is what we're going through. It's that very Love Simon movie moment of like, and Love Victor, where
Yeah.
Love Victor, he writes to Simon, you know. So it is what inspires us for sure.
I'm back now I'm back in the South, and I'm in Murfreesboro, Tennessee at the moment. Uh, the pandemic had moved me back out from LA, so my entire adult life I have been in New York, Los Angeles, and New Orleans, um, all three cities. And so being back here in the smaller town in the Bible Belt, um, this a smaller mindset, and seeing it, it reminded me there are so many kids that have to be going through this in these rural communities right now. And I forgot that because
Yeah.
I had my entire adult life for the past, I mean, almost 20 years, I have been in these big cities, these safe havens.
Yeah, I totally understand that as well. Just because you know I talk a lot about, because I've moved back to Owensboro, Kentucky, is where we kind of house this show, and it's very rural. I mean, it's the city for Kentucky, but it's
Yeah.
still rural. Kentucky is rural, no matter where you go, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you always have those mindsets of closed minds and the churches that are on every street corner. You know, so uh, to come back to this kind of area, it was both saddening to see that the closed minds were still here, but it was also for
Mhm.
me, and I want to know if you had this experience, it was also surprising in the sense that of how far things had progressed.
That is, it's so much hope. It's like, I think it's awesome. I love every time. I mean, just at the corner, at the gas station down the corner here, there's a trans individual, and
Yeah,
it just makes me so happy that they're being able to thrive, um,
yeah.
in a rural place like this. I'm sure that they have gone through
Oh yeah.
insane amounts of, struggles. Um, but it makes me really happy that we're progressing slowly, like as a consciousness.
Yeah. And I think
Um,
that's why it's so important for visibility in general in our areas still. We had, because I moved off to Atlanta and Florida and those kind of places where you are a lot more free to be yourself, to hold hands with your significant other and partner, and not
mhm,
fear like you would back here. Um, so having those feelings, visibility is so important in that regard, because if they don't see us coming back to these places and living our lives free, then how can we ever expect them to
mhm,
be that way in their youth?
mhm.
Visibility. Jump into
Yes.
your first kiss scenario.
Yes. So this was so in Los Angeles, and this was like my longest relationship that I've had. We were together for 3.5 years, um, and he was a lawyer as well. Um, but so I loved the really cool thing about him. He very much every time we were in public, I think he made it a point to hold hands, and I loved that. I loved the affection. I love it. But I think he also he he was very conscious of the good that it does,
Yeah.
and not only but also putting, we see it all the time. We see straight people and couples um everywhere making out in bars and um being very comfortable. So he was doing it on purpose. Not I loved the affection, but not just for that. He was conscious of what it was, what it meant to society. And so he was from Canada, and so he every all Canadians, gay or straight, they are all big hockey fans. So he had season tickets to to the Los Angeles Kings. Um, and he was very big and very vocal on Twitter. He always did, and so he berated them for maybe a year, and said, "Why have you never had a same-sex couple on the Kiss Cam?" And he had, he constantly, like, always was at them. Well, he called me very nervously one day, and he said, Andy, can will you are you free on well, I don't know what day it was. Are you free on Friday? You have to go to the Kings game with me this time." He's like, "I know you hate going, but will you go with me?" I'm like, "Sure. What are you talking about? Sure." He said they finally responded on Twitter, the Los Angeles Kings, and they had said, "Fine, you're a season ticket holder. Where are your seats? We will show up with the camera next game."
Oh wow.
So we were prepared. So we were prepared, and we had our Kings jerseys on, and we knew that they were coming. And it was they had the big camera,
Yeah.
whatever. And they kneel down right in front of you. So, and for like a few minutes before you're actually going to be on the screen. So we're sitting there just like like, how are we going to do um and I don't think I or he even knew it was the first, because we had already seen the Dodgers kiss.
Yeah.
That was so for baseball had happened before us. And I think there was one other lesbian kiss before that, but we were the first same-sex kiss for any NHL game, for
That's
any hockey game
spectacular.
anywhere. And it was it was cool. It happened quickly. We were so happy we did it. There's clips and on the internet everywhere about it. But what was cool is after the fact, um, we got phone calls and emails and things from gay magazine, Out magazine, In magazine, like gay magazines from London, from all over Canada. There was a youth gay sports league, or like sport something, youth gay sports league in Canada, that had us on for an interview.
Wow.
So we did a bunch of we did a bunch of radio interviews. We did we did a bunch of interviews for magazines, whatnot, and it was just cool. It's the same thing, visibility. They talked about there are all of these gays who love hockey in
Yeah.
Canada, but are not free or open or out. Um, so on a larger scale, it was cool the good we could do. And at the end of we just had our personal things that we were doing. At the time, we were running triathlons together and raising money for Leukemia Lymphoma Society for people with cancer. A lot of leukemia lymphoma is one of the is a big killer for people with HIV and AIDS. If you get AIDS, then a big killer is leukemia. So we had some friends that had it, and so we were raising money in their honor. And so this was maybe our third race or something. Um, and so at the end of every interview, we asked them to put a link to our fundraising page. We raised, it was, I think, an extra $12,000 because of
That's amazing.
Because of that. So we were like, I think we were from our region or something, we were like the top raisers, and so they were like, how did you do, you raised 1,000 last year, how did you do this?
Right.
So it was kind of cool to parlay that into an even bigger way of helping.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's a spectacular story. I also I think it's great that he kept hounding them to the point where they finally said yes. And I think that's we still have to do that in a lot of ways today. And it may not be fun at the time, but sometimes you do hound until they finally give us the visibility that we deserve. We're the same as everybody else on that. That's also, I love how you brought up that he was a lawyer. That's
well, I knew you were, so I was.
Well, if anybody asks, that's why I make out in bars and stuff too. I'm doing it for the noble cause, right?
That's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna use that from now on. All right. Well, we've talked a lot about your first. I want to talk a little bit about you. We've discussed in the past some things about New Orleans. I love New Orleans. You moved to New Orleans. Tell us about your time there. And there was a certain six-pack that I want to hear about too in this.
Oh yeah, yes. So and not a six-pack of beer, but or the abs.
Right.
So I love New Orleans so much. Okay, I don't know. I knew I had gone to college for maybe a year or so, and I was majoring in theater. Did some amazing plays there, and I decided that being an actor, you don't need a degree; you need training. So I decided to go away from so I'm like, why am I still taking a math class for, for acting? I don't need this. So I'm like, I need to go to an acting conservatory. So I went to New York for a summer and I did the school for acting, school for film and television, and had some amazing acting teachers there. Blew me away. But that was basically the end of my college fund because I was going away from all the scholarships that I had at this college. And then I used up a bunch of money to do that acting school, which I had no scholarships for. And so I had nothing left. So that's the next year, that next winter, I ended up in northern Michigan at my dad's house. He had at the time this little farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, and my car broke down. So I was stranded. Like, he would go to work and I would be at the farmhouse by myself. I remember walking literally 3 miles in the snow to go rent a movie.
Wow.
I was just so bored. I was so bored and going stir crazy. And
That shows
they
your
were
age.
divorced.
That really shows your age. You realize that, right? You had to go
It
rent
was
a
a
movie.
VHS.
You had to walk
It was a
somewhere to go.
VHS that I was renting. Yes, to go rent a movie at Blockbuster. I literally was like, this is like, I was trudging through the snow. I was going stir crazy. I didn't care if I froze to death. I needed to do something.
Yeah.
So then my mother had just moved to New Orleans. So I'm in northern Michigan and there is 6 feet of snow outside. Like, I'm literally snowed into this farmhouse. She calls and she's like, she had just moved to New Orleans where my uncle was living. He did something running, I think he had something to do with running the port of New Orleans. Like with the ships coming in and out. So he ran that down there. She moved there because she would have family support from her brother. And she was just like, if I'm going to be single in my old age, she's like, I want to move somewhere. I'm going to have fun. She's like, she's in this tiny little town. How could she date? How could she do anything? Everyone knows her story and all this stuff. And I thought that was so awesome and adventurous of her. She calls me up and she said, I know you're miserable after New York City. You were there for a little while, uh, do you want to, she's like, I had a temporary lease on this place. Should I get a 1 bedroom or a 2? I said, get a 2 bedroom. I'm coming right now.
Right.
So, literally I went down, I don't know. I had to go, they drove me to Chicago and then I hopped on the train, and it's called the Spirit of New Orleans, the train that goes from Chicago to New Orleans. And, that just, I think that's magical, just that it's the spirit of New Orleans.
Yeah.
And, uh, New Orleans chooses you. People love or hate that city. They really, really do. And if it chooses you, you're stuck for life. I grew up in Michigan, but I call New Orleans my home.
Yeah.
Um, there's a magic. There's a magic there, that is nowhere else in this country. It has such a culture of its own that no other city has. New York, even New York, is an amalgam of all these different cultures. It doesn't have its own culture. It's amazing because of that, but it's not its own thing. New Orleans has its own thing. Um, I got off the train. My mother picked me up and she's like, we're going to have to go buy a big hat. And I'm like, why? And for me, she's like, we're going, what was it? We're going to Jazz Fest. We're going to Jazz Fest. You have to have a big brim hat for the sun. We have just immediately threw me into Jazz Fest, and I was just blown away with the energy of the city. I was there for a week. Oh my God. Okay. I have too many stories, but, I was there for a week and she's like, well, we you can't just sit around here. We got to get you a job and some friends. So I literally I walked through the French Quarter. The first place I stopped, I said, are you hiring? And they hired me as a host.
That's
And like
great.
it just was like the big easy. It was easy. She took me, she's like, okay, we got to get you some friends. Let's go to a gay bar. So my mom she takes me to a
That's
gay bar. um, we're at Good Friends, which is a more neighborhoody bar where everyone sits and talks, very happy hour-ish type thing. And there's old and young gays, all types. And that was my favorite thing. Um, I had been so I would rather go to Good Friends and sit next to an old silver-haired man with a million stories, and sit there and talk with him all night, than go to the dance bar,
yeah.
then go to a circuit party or a dance club. And so people were like, "Are you an escort?" And I was like, no. They just have, I'm sorry, but they're just so much more interesting than you.
No, no, that's
I
totally
loved
true. The first time I ever took my mother to a gay bar, one of her first comments was, she's like, the number one thing that I think is different about like gay world is there's no age discrepancy. Like you will find young guys talking to old guys it
hmm
does not matter. They're all friends. There's no like cliques when it comes to that kind of stuff. Uh, which is just, I thought was a
Yeah,
tremendous like love like for our culture, so
the term the term of family.
hmm
LGBTQ say, "Oh, well, you're family."
yeah.
Um, we are a family, and I hate. So it's usually uh, young gays in their early 20s who are like, "Ew, you're talking to someone old," and I despise that,
Yeah.
because when I was young, I ate up the stories. I ate up the stories. I ate up the human. Oh my God. So one year this is a little sidetrack, but one year I was at the Oscars, and I was still in my tux, and afterwards, and I was not able to get into or invited to any of the Oscar parties afterwards. So I went to the Abbey in West Hollywood, and
Mhm.
I sat down, and I was still in my tux, and I ordered a martini, and there was an old man sitting next to me, and he said, "So you were at the event tonight, weren't you?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, I've got one of those. And I said, what? An Oscar? And he said, yes. And he had an Oscar for special effects for Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh my
He
goodness.
won so he made the big whatever, all the special
Wow.
effects and stuff for the monster, for the plants. I was dying. I didn't want to talk to anybody else that night. I sat there for like probably an hour and a half talking to that guy. It was amazing. It was like meant to be.
That's amazing.
But so there I am with my mom at Good Friends, and I'm talking to an older gentleman on one side, and she's talking to a young guy on this side. Apparently, there was this group of guys across the bar that were looking over and saying, "Oh, who's the cute young new guy or whatever," something like that. They were all locals, and so they somehow they were like, "You talked to him." Got one of them to come over and talk to my mom, and because of that, that group of friends, we became friends for life. I'm still friends with them. I cry laughing every time. I mean,
Yeah.
they I don't know. They're just we have a special connection. Horrible dark senses of humor, but they're all amazing. But this dark sense of humor, I said, Mom, it was a long time after that, or maybe a couple months. I was like, Mom, wait, or she brought it up, or I said, what did he say to you? And he came over and to my mother, and they just trashed off his ass. And he just goes, I've got gonorrhea, kid stuff. And
Oh my
apparently,
gosh.
And I'm like, Mom, you let me be friends with these people? I'm like, everything that happened from them on out, it's your fault.
Right.
It is your fault.
That is
But
hilarious.
apparently at the time they had an inside joke that they could say anything awful and then afterwards say kid stuff, and it was funny. So it made it all okay.
Oh, good. That's gonna trend now. You watch. I guarantee you, they're gonna watch a show, and that'll
I've
be
got
a new
gonorrhea.
thing. Yep. Kid stuff. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I hope the kid stuff.
Well,
But it was so cute. Everyone around. So we were a free group of friends. Like we loved each other's company more. We didn't never wanted to meet other people. So we were known as the six pack. There were six of us, and everyone around the French Quarter knew us because we would come out in theme. Like New Orleans is it's a costume city. It's it's just crazy. There's Mardi Gras. Halloween there is the best Halloween in the country because Halloween is just intrinsic in New Orleans. There's ghosts and witches and vampires there already. So we went out as a soccer team, and we'd all be different colors, like in short shorts, each time. Or we'd all go out in 80s stuff, and we'd get dressed drunk, and we would look awful. We would get dressed drunk, and we would like color like bright colors for 80s stuff, and just like we would try to one up each other. We didn't need anyone's validation. We just had each other, and it was amazing.
I think that's a perfect chosen family right there, like the six pack. And
they are my chosen family.
Yeah. And I think like all
they
of
live
us
all across the country.
All of us end up getting like one of those chosen families. Like for me, we were actually known as the Musketeers, all for one for all type of like, and we had like these matching tank tops that like all of us were one of the different Musketeers, but and
oh my God.
So we did a lot of that kind of stuff too. And I think like that's the it gets better part of the Trevor Project. Like once you come out, once you find your like chosen family, those are the stories that are going to last you your lifetime. So.
And you're never stuck. You're like the people in these rural places, you're never stuck. There are these free places. I did New York, LA, and New Orleans. They amazing. The communities there, you can meet friends so easily. It's not a hard thing to do. It's just the choice to do it is hard. You think you're stuck, but you're not.
And I think it's so important to just experience that, even if it's like just go travel there and see what it's like. And then, you may eventually want to move to one of those places, but at least go check these places out because you will find that freedom.
Yeah. Oh, I was just about freedom because of being in those three cities, um, which were insanely and unbelievably free, and you didn't know how free you were until you reflect back on it. So now that I'm here, and now that I'm south of Nashville, about a half hour south, and so I've gone up to Play, is the big dance bar, gay dance bar up there, and I was looking around and I was just saying, this is supposed to be the haven for the gays. And I'm like, these people are still have a producer over their shoulder watching themselves and what they're going to say and all this stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
even these people in Nashville don't know what freedom is. I'm like,
Yeah.
they're still in a cage.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a interesting observation.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I went obviously my first few bars were in Louisville, Kentucky, which like you said, it is very limited on like the freedom that's even in those bars. Like they are constantly watched over and stuff. Uh, but my second bar, ironically enough, was in New Orleans, and I actually went there on a fraternity
Which
outing.
one?
Um, I
Okay.
don't even know the name of it because I was like 19, 20 years old going with my
Can you
fraternity to this big conference down there. And then like my fraternity brothers are like, "You're gay. There's gay bars at the end of the street. Let's go there." And so like you walk all the way
So
down
it
Bourbon
was on
Street.
Bourbon?
Yeah, all the way down Bourbon Street. It's like the very last bars at the end. It's got the rainbow flags, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so different than Kentucky." So and we snuck in because we were definitely underage, and so but got in, and that was my second like gay bar experience, and it was shocking just to feel that.
I bet you. So there's only two bars that are right at the end of Bourbon. There, it's Oz and the Bourbon Pub. They're right across the street from each other,
Mhm.
and I bartended at Oz at one point.
Really.
It was amazing. So I could have served you. And this would have been later on, and I've lived there on and off for 15 years, so I could have served you when you came.
I would say this was
Which
probably
is
in like
it's a
2009, 2010, 11, somewhere in there. So
I I lived there. I lived there then.
yep.
And I think I was working at Oz at the time.
Right.
Um, the funny thing about this that that intersection right there, like what you're talking about at the end of Bourbon, there's the gay
Yeah.
bars. Well, there is a lot. There's literally, whenever there is when it's Mardi Gras or when it's Southern Decadence or when it's Halloween or whatever, there is literally, because the street is so packed all the time, there, when it's late at night, there is a line that forms when all of the straight dudes come down Bourbon and they're trashed, and they kind of like they just stop and they realize, oh, that's the gay, like, because they see guys kissing out on the street, they see,
Yeah.
they see guys holding hands, everything together, and it's all the straight guys. So whenever it was a festival, we would all go, we'd stand in front of the line and we'd be like, come on over, it's so much fun, come on, come on, come on.
Yeah.
Just to be silly, but it
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah. I love New Orleans. I love the gay bars down there. I always say if there's somewhere I need to move, it's probably there. But I'm afraid I will get stuck there and never move again. So I'm gonna wait a little bit. So,
i'm
uh,
I think it's my goal to retire there. I want
yeah.
to be a cute old man in a sweater vest at happy hour telling my amazing stories.
Yeah. Telling whenever you were at the Oscars, and but let's go into your acting career because we haven't
Oh,
gotten even a chance to
oh,
discuss this yet.
okay.
I
Oh,
recently
wait, could I do
watched.
one?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, just one more thing, because you had mentioned the Oscars. I have had the amazing honor of being able to be on the talent relations committee for the Academy. So I've been there many years on the red carpet, and being this young kid from northern Michigan, tiny little town, just dreaming about Hollywood and the amazing stories that actors get to tell. And then I was there there on the carpet with people. I pinch myself every year that I get to do it. I die. So one of a another first, a thing that I got to be there for, um Shangela was the first drag queen to ever be on the red carpet at the Oscars. Um, I didn't get to walk her down the carpet, but I somehow at some point was close to her, and she said, "Hey, come here, come here." And what? And she's like, "Help me, please, help me." And I held her purse and I held whatever. Two of her nails had broken off,
Oh my goodness.
and she's like, "I knew this was going to happen." She's like, "I talk with my hands to the reporters, blah blah blah." So I helped her glue them back on. I helped her glue two of her nails back on, and it was just cool to just be there for her.
Yeah.
And she said something about, we brought up family, and she said, "Oh, thank God there was some family close by." And
Right.
I just loved that.
Yeah.
I just love that. Oh, thank God there was some family.
We will
So
find
that
each
was cute.
other always in the crowd. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how
Yeah.
her nails fell off. Like I've done drag one time and I couldn't get those nails off for like 2 weeks. So like it's
They
awesome.
were long ones. They were long ones. They were things, so they probably
So
caught. And she said she talked with her hands. So yeah.
well, obviously you are very involved in acting. I recently watched the 86 Melrose Avenue and saw your part in that. But tell us about like what is it like to be a gay actor playing these gay roles in movies?
I always, I guess from the beginning, I assumed and I thought I was going to have to be uh, an in the closet actor, because that's how it always was in the past. And when I was in high school, I mean, that's what I imagined that I would have to do to be able to play straight roles. Because I don't want to just play gay roles. I want to play them all. I want to
Right.
play characters. Um, and so I don't know where it was along the line. I think it was New Orleans that did it to me, that I just felt that I had to live authentically. And there were and as time progressed, I became more and more certain that I was going to be an out actor. I'm like, I don't want to have to hide this. I literally thought, okay, well, I can have, my online profiles as Andy Evans and have that be my life and my gay life, and have Evan Andrews be my actor life,
Right.
and have it be very, very conservative and whatnot. Well, I thought of who I am and wanting and to be honest and an activist and be, all of that. And I'm like, that's not me. So now it's amazing to have people to look up to, like Matt Bomer.
Yeah.
I love his career. I want a career like that. He plays gay roles. He plays straight roles. I mean, he's a father. He's an amazing, role model for lots of gays. But it's comforting to know you can have a career. Oh, what's his name? How I Met Your Mother.
Neil
I
Patrick
don't know.
Harris. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So another amazing, can play straight and gay roles and whatnot. My first role was, I got a role on this movie, All the King's Men. Oh, so in New Orleans, uh, quick little funny story. This is how I met my acting coach. Um, his name's Arthur Mendoza. He's, I think, one of the last great acting coaches of a different generation. Um, just special. He knows what he's doing. He's brought up many Oscar winners. Um, he can read a person the second he meets you. He knows what your mommy issues are, your daddy issues, everything, and then tells you to get rid of them so that you can
Wow.
have a clean slate to work as an actor. He said, "I'm not a therapist. You go get rid of those, and then come to me to learn acting." Well, I met him in my apartment building in New Orleans. Um, I Do you know Bianca Del Rio?
Yeah.
She is she won season 6 of Drag Race.
Hmm.
I think that's the only season I've seen because I wanted to support her. I saw her for that.
That's so weird
Um,
because confession, that's the only season I've seen as well. And it's because I was like obsessed with Adore Delano. So
oh, okay.
true
Yes, yeah,
story.
yeah, yeah. I loved it. Well, I was friends with Bianca back in the day, way before any of Drag Race ever existed, and she was like the most famous drag queen in New Orleans, and she always won like the city awards of bitch of the South or bitch of the city,
Right.
um, and so she was hilarious. She was magnetic, and I was just a young gay, and I was just drawn and obsessed with her. And part of it was just the performance. It was literally the whatever she did for a crowd. She could make a crowd roar. I cried laughing so many times at her shows. Well, I started like I would stop by her studio and help her make costumes and whatnot. But anyway, she had the second floor of the building and I had the third floor of the building, where it was my apartment. So one day I go down the hall and she's like, "Oh, honey, tomorrow it's gonna be my birthday, so you better come on down and have a drink, otherwise you're gonna be pissed. It's gonna be loud." So it's this tiny, it's this tiny little apartment, and um, I so I showed up with I called him a pocket gay. He was tiny, tiny, tiny little guy, but he's like a chihuahua, very, very loud. And we had already had some drinks, and so we walk in. And at the time, I was working on my first film in New Orleans, and it was a big one. It was like $80 million budget. It was called All the King's Men, with Jude Law, Kate Winslet,
Yeah.
Anthony Hopkins, um, every actor in the world, James Gandolfini. There were just all these amazing actors in it. And so we walk into Bianca's party, and there is Lawrence Fishburne. And so I'm like, to my little Chihuahua friend, I'm like, I'm like, oh God, please don't embarrass me, because the Hollywood is really small and they all know each other. Like, I'm just thinking that it's really small.
Right.
They all know each other. Don't embarrass me. She's don't tell a drunk Chihuahua that, because he just immediately goes, "Morpheus, how are ya? This is
Oh
my
my
friend Andy.
gosh.
He's an actor." I
Wow.
died. I just died. So he was it actually worked out for me, because he was afraid of the Chihuahua, and it was a very crowded, and he kind of put me in between my friend and I. And so Lawrence started talking to me, and he started saying, "Oh, well, if you're really an actor, my best friend is an acting coach. He's here. I'll introduce you at some point." By the end of the night, I got his card. Um, the next day, he took me to lunch, the acting coach, Arthur, and he within 5 minutes I was crying,
Yeah.
because he's that person that reads you. He says, this, and this. You're doing this, but you should be doing this. If you want to be a serious actor, come to Hollywood and study with me. Well, then Katrina happened.
Mm.
Katrina was probably the most traumatic thing of my life. Because I was happy. I was getting roles. I had just gotten a role. I had gotten a supporting role in a Miramax film, in New Orleans that summer. We were supposed to start shooting the day Katrina hit.
Oh my goodness.
Um, I woke up after a night in the French Quarter, and uh, my mother calls and says, "Get out, get out, get out. It's a category 5." And I'm like, "No," I'm hungover. And I'm like, "No, Mom, I'm filming on Monday." Because it's going to be the first day of filming for this big Miramax film. And I was so excited. It would have been my breakout role. And she's like, "No one's filming on Monday. It's a category 5.
Oh
She's
my
like, "Your
gosh.
aunt is coming to the house, going to pick you up, and like get a bag packed." And so I left, and uh, that was that. And then the fall, I lived in my grandfather's house, because you could not go back. They didn't allow you to even go back.
Yeah.
It was, I think, a month, 2 months before they allowed people back into the city. So I went and scrounged what I could, what I got left, and then didn't get to go back to New Orleans for a long time, and it sucked because that was my heart. But what happened was, it was a good push. It pushed me so that New Year's. So I was one fall in northern Michigan, at my grandfather's, and then that New Year's I went out to LA, and I showed up in his acting class, and he about shit himself because he was like, this stupid little kid from New Orleans, he actually showed up with a check, like,
Yeah.
he's taking my class. Well, I studied with him for years, and for a bunch of years, and uh, he teaches a technique of Stella Adler, that it's amazing. I learned you don't have to have talent. It is a technique. Anyone can act. All you have to do is put the work in. Because I have seen people that are awful, like stutterers, people who could not stop shaking anything, like I could not get a word out. And 2 years later, or a few years, however, it takes everyone different amount of time, but amazing actors, like beyond. I I cannot stress, like, uh, he knows what he's doing, and it blew me away. I was in the right spot. I knew you can feel it. When you're in the right spot at the right time. And it was the technique. Then eventually, because in my 20s, I came at acting very superficially. Like, I was impressed with the lights and the stars and the blah blah blah, red carpets and everything. And I became, I went through a phase of being depressed and miserable, and I figured out that it was that, because I stopped acting for maybe a couple years, um, because I came at it superficially, and then I figured out that uh, I had missed it desperately, and I came back at it authentically, and caring about the characters and caring about uh, the why in every moment. Why? What is your motivation? What's the why in everything? And if you don't enjoy the the building of a character, then you're not going to be a great actor.
Yeah.
Um, and so I decided, I was like, I love this, and I will do it for the rest of my life, whether I make a dime at it or not. If I'm doing community theater or whatnot, I realized that I loved it, and then things started falling into place, and I started getting more roles.
What was your first role?
Oh, I actually had my first role before the acting classes. So I had it in New Orleans. It was that summer before Katrina, and it was awful. It's like, it's one of those things that I can't put it on my reel, because it would not help me get another job. But it was before any of my training. Um, so it was an ABC Family movie, uh, called Campus Confidential, and it's like an after school special movie. It basically was the Mean Girls, of ABC Family. Like, it was ABC Family's version of Mean Girls. So it's a cliquey high school, um, and so one of the cliques was the Fab Five. They were literally. So I was
Oh
the
wow,
leader of I was the Carson Kressley. I was the
that's
Carson
awesome.
Kressley of the Fab Five in high school. So this was a high school where it was popular to be gay. Um, but the awful thing about this, and I didn't realize it in the moment. So when you're young and you're just starting acting, you just take any job you're going to get. You're just excited. I'm going to be on TV. Well, this was ABC Family is owned by Disney, and Disney is so micromanaging and also homophobic. Disney has classically been homophobic, which is ridiculous. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. Um, but so I've never been on a set where you get direction from anyone but the director. Well, when in Disney, you get, at the time, I don't know if they still do. So I got direction from the executives that were watching the dailies that we shot the day before, and then they would send notes. So what I would get for my notes were, gay it up, um, uh, be whatever, be more outlandish, be more flamboyant, be more whatever.
Wow.
um Literally, one of the outfits that they gave me, and I loved the costume designer. She was frigging amazing, Mona May. I actually ended up living with her at one point in Hollywood. We were great friends. She did the Romy and Michelle's high school reunion. She made those outfits. She made those amazing outfits they danced in.
That's awesome.
Anyways, so one of the outfits that she gave me was, she's like, okay, this is going to be the vision of pink. And it was a pink fedora and a crazy pink shirt and pink capris and pink slippers, like this kid in high school. Now, I mean, yes, it's awesome to be out there, but the point is that they were making me a stereotype and unrelatable to the world.
Yeah.
Gay it up, gay it up, gay it up. They're making you the butt of a joke
Mhm.
instead of something that being relatable. Then you have to deal with us as real people. So now fast forward to this summer. 86 Melrose came out in June of this year, I believe. It's on Amazon Prime. You can rent it on Amazon Prime. Um, and I'm playing a gay character that I'm actually proud of.
Yeah.
It's it's something more. He's in a relation. They're in a relationship. We have a fight about something real. Like, he knows that my brother died of an overdose of cocaine, and I thought that he had stopped doing it himself, and I catch him in his office doing a line,
Right.
and there's a blowout fight. So it's not even about. So it's great to have a real storyline instead of and so we both we were boyfriends. We owned this gallery in Los Angeles together. The address was 86 Melrose, but when someone's 86th, they die.
Right.
So, or if something is 86, it no longer exists. So the movie is about, we have an opening night wine and cheese thing for a photographer, uh, and she has a great storyline of her own, from war torn Lebanon, and there's a lot of drama with that. But for us, we own the gallery, and then suddenly an active shooter comes in. And an active shooter can be anywhere these days.
Right.
And so we're held hostage for most of the film. So it was very, very intense to film. Um, there were many times we would be on the cold cement floor, filming this for hours and hours, and we trying to be like afraid for your life
Yeah.
and whatever, with the gun in your face, all that kind of stuff. Um, and we would get up, and it was the most amazing experience as an actor, because there was so much love from the other characters. We um, would get up and hug. We all hugged, because it was so traumatic to stay in
Yeah.
that state of being afraid for your life. And then it was so, what I thought was cool. So before it came out, the year before, it did the festival circuit, and we did maybe 15 festivals or something. For quite a few festivals, we won best feature, and then also what was really cool was we won best ensemble,
Wow.
because it was really an ensemble piece.
Yeah.
Because usually, if you ever do anything, it's one or two people in a scene. It's like
Mhm.
it's one or two people you're acting with. This was 12, 12 principal actors in every scene, like the entire time we were being held hostage.
Yeah.
So it was a cool ensemble piece.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the piece
Um,
too, just like it really covers the mental health of PTSD, which was just
yes.
you could feel it, and it was a very emotional movie in that sense. And I agree, your
S-
character
s-
specifically, like you were real. It's not one of those like fake gay
mhm,
characters that's just played up to be the butt of every joke. I mean, this was a real situation. Y'all fought over
mhm.
finances and issues in the relationship, and all while this was going on. So uh, to come from being the
And
butt of
then
a joke to
yeah,
that is just awesome.
exactly. Amazing. And yeah, so that we can visibility, seeing a real gay character.
Hmm.
But it's a movie that I would have, you always like, great, I got cast, but then it's like, do I want to do this project? And once I read the script, yes, absolutely, because she was so good. Lily Matta, she was a director and writer, she's amazing. Um, she took that. It wasn't a terrorist coming in. It wasn't whatever. It was a soldier dealing with PTSD, and then in his intense moments with the gun with each hostage, it brought out flashbacks and the PTSD in
Right.
them. And so it was saying that we all have something that we can't let go of,
Yeah.
just as humans. We there Mental health is a problem for everyone. We all need to address it. Everyone, I mean, it's like everyone, pretty much everyone needs a therapist.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Definitely a great movie. It's 86 Melrose Avenue. Go check it out on Amazon Prime. It's I enjoyed it. I actually watched it tonight before we interviewed. So, but yeah. Uh,
thank you. Nice,
uh,
nice.
I want to go into you have some advice for rural LGBTQ kids. The do's and don'ts is what we call this section. What are your do's and don'ts for these individuals?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Um, I guess I'm going to do don'ts. Don'ts first. Um, uh, it's just going to help you more in life. We are so body obsessed as the gay culture, and physical obsessed. Don't let it rule your life. Um, the friends that you make, uh, focus on the characters, focus on the person's personality, and it will serve you for the rest of your life. Those are the people that are going to be your friends, um, that are not just surface. Um, Number two, don't ever let an older person convince you to do meth. Ever.
That is a good one.
Whatever tantalizing things about it, um, if you have done meth, focus on the negative aspects of it. Do not focus on the tantalizing parts of it, um, because I've seen it destroy so many lives.
Yeah.
It's hands down, don't go there. Um, Number three, oh, I was saying, uh, I was saying, be catty, but not for the rest of your life. It's a great phase. No,
Yeah.
it's like, or if you're gonna be catty, then equalize it with being real.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that I know that are just they're in their old age, and it's just nah 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 nah, nah everything. There's nothing real, and it's sad because they're looking for attention. It's
Yeah.
like equalize it. Be funny, be real. Um, it, it You don't rely on that cattiness. I don't know.
Yeah. That's
Be authentic. Um, uh, that was part of what I was saying. I came at the industry very superficially in my 20s, and then I came at it authentically, and I felt so much happier, at peace, calm. Um, but that can be anyone and in anything. Just be authentic and be yourself. When you're being false, people see right through it. I was saying, be nice. Okay, number two, be nice to everybody. Karma's a bitch. um, you
truth.
you never know. You never know when you're going to be at the other end of the stick.
Mhm.
So, and it will happen. It always, if when you're unnecessarily mean to anybody, it's going to come back at you. So literally, you don't know what's going on in someone's life. You don't know their situation. So be nice to everybody. There's a thing that came across me. What is the most good that you can do today? Like if you ever wake up, think, okay, what is the most good I could do today? And we can't do that. We can't possibly do every day the most good that we can. But if you do even just be an ear to listen for
Yeah.
a friend, for anything, um, what is the most good I can do? If you do any fraction of that, then I think you're a success as a human.
Yeah.
Any fraction of the most good. It doesn't matter if it's 1%, just anything, and it whatever whenever I've been depressed, it's always helping others that brings me out of it. So that's my, I mean, really think about what good you can do.
Yeah. I think that's all great
And we
advice.
always can.
Yeah. I
Um,
like that one there just because I always use the phrase what do the people in the room need from me right now? You know, it is that doing good aspect of like you're walking into a room, you may feel like shit, you may feel, like you don't have the energy, but it's like what do the people in the room need from me right now? and that
It can be
gives
so
them
simple.
life, so
I guess kind of. So number three, I just said allow yourself to fall in love. Um, it is, and it can be. Doesn't have to be for relationships. It can be allow yourself to love, like just like that. At the register. That's a way of showing love. It's love everyone. I've loved twice in my life, and I do not regret it at all.
mhm.
In the big ways. I had a relationship where I loved him very much, and then found out I was not in love with him because of my last relationship. I was in love with him, and it was a world of difference, and I was so glad that I allowed myself to do that. Um, you it can hurt, but you'll never regret it in the long run.
That is deep and so true. I think we learn from each of our relationships a difference in the type of loves that we can give and receive. So that's that's a great one. Uh, Going off of the serious now, let's go into something a little more comedic. And you may have already given some of these stories out, but if you have one specific one in mind of what we call the heap of trouble, it's kind of the most comedic story of gay life for you.
Okay, I have one. I don't know. It's just it's more me making a fool of myself in my own mind.
Those are good too.
But I call it my legally blonde dinner. Um, s- no, it's just silly. Okay, if you've seen Legally Blonde, and she's just so excited, and she is so happy, and to be going on that dinner date with him, and she thinks he's gonna propose. This was me.
Oh no.
I was in New York. Oh, it was bad. So I was in New York City, and I don't even know if we were dating. In my mind, we were dating. Um, and we had, we saw each other, we'd occasionally go to dinner or something, and then we had amazing chemistry, and we'd go to his place, and he was a director in New York City, and he had this multi-million dollar apartment above. I lived in Brooklyn in a 6th floor walk up, and he lived on Wall Street, like literally above Wall Street in this high rise. And we would wake up in the morning, and we would have coffee. We'd sit and look out the window, and we were like, we're the artists, and whatever. And we're like, oh, and we see all the suits. We'd on Wall Street, we'd see all the suits walking by, and we'd be like, oh, what's it like to whatever be so serious and all this. And we do this. I don't know. We had a very I don't know.
Bohemian.
It was kind of it was magical in a way, and it was cute. So he invites me to dinner. We go to Little Italy, to this cute little restaurant, and we're sitting right by the window. It's so romantic and all this stuff, and I'm expecting him to like ask me to be exclusive with him, or we're gonna be move this to the next level, whatever. And then he says, you're not serious enough for me. You're not
Oh
serious. And
my
I'm like sitting there
gosh.
like waterworks. But it was I'm like, oh my god, I'm Elle.
Oh my
I'm Elle
goodness.
from Legally Blonde. I didn't have
Oh.
the stilettos to like walk off in, but it was just so funny. He was like, you're a little party boy, I need someone more serious. I'm like, ah!
Oh my
So, but
goodness.
I always joke about it as my Legally Blonde dinner.
What an experience. Like you're expecting that and you get something totally like that is the definition of like wrong expectations. So and
I was like, wow. But I mean,
oh,
you have to laugh at yourself. You
oh
just
yeah.
have to like, oh God.
Yeah.
Oh well.
We all have those expectations with like our significant others that just never come to be. So we can all relate a little
Yeah.
bit, maybe not to that extreme, but I get I get it.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, we always do a final segment on the show. It's called the Pot of Gold question. There's a pot of gold at every end of every rainbow, and at the end of this show, you get to ask me one question, and I will turn it around and ask you one final question to end the show.
Okay. Well, I was thinking, since we were talking about Hollywood and everything, I would keep it that based. So w- think of an actor that you would that you would want that you would want to marry, but make it personal, as in the qualities that you would want. So what does this actor have that in qualities?
Is it the actor that I'm marrying or their like fictitious character that they're playing?
Oh, well, it could be either. It could be either. So you could, like, maybe if you're attracted to his philanthropy, or it's just, or his humor, or his something, or it could be the character. Yeah.
If I was to have to marry an actor that, as well as like maybe their fictitious character that they're playing, there is a movie from 2012 called Stuck in
Okay.
Love. And
Hmm.
the character is played by Greg Kinnear, who also played like JFK and stuff in other films. So like
Oh yeah.
obviously very attractive, very
Great.
intelligent, like has a lot going for him just in
It's great.
general.
Yeah.
Plus very attractive individual as well. Uh, but in this movie, like he's divorced from his wife, but he's in that stuck in love. Like he's left her in the past, and she waited for him, and he's like doing that for her this whole movie. Like she's found a younger model, and like he's waiting on her to like come back and be a part of the family again. And so as far as like
Oh.
qualities, like I've always loved that movie because one, it shows like how we can be stuck in love and always care for someone even whenever they're going through whatever their life is taking them through. um, but he was a man of his word. Like he told her that if she ever left him, he would wait for her like she did him. And this was like 4 or 5 years later, and she finally shows back up, you know. So it's like I think that
Oh.
is the qualities that I really like, is like he's a man of his word. He's willing to go out of his way for his spouse, even though they're going through trouble.
It's like that. It's that very romantic. That, like, complete romantic quality.
Yeah. And I'm a
Yeah.
hardcore romantic, so like that really just like it
Yeah.
twisted my heart, and I was like, it just, you know, it makes you fall in love with
Oh.
that character. And then like plus it's played by Greg Kinnear, who's like amazing in all of his roles. So
Yeah.
and he plays
Oh
JFK,
yeah.
which is also like even
Yeah.
better. Like who doesn't love JFK played in
Like,
films?
yeah.
So
Epic. Like epic.
yeah.
Epic. Yeah.
I am actually, because you made that one really tough, and I like that question. So I'm going to flip it on you and say, which actor, fictitious character or themselves, would you not want to marry due to their qualities?
Oh God. Um.
Now you see how hard this question is.
Well, I think mine would probably be easier because there's so many evil characters
Yeah.
that you're like, what was that? It was called, oh God, Edward Norton. It's his character in something. Is it American something, or he curbs he curbs somebody. Uh, puts
Oh,
he's basically a racist Nazi, and he curbs
oh,
someone,
yes.
like, disconnect their jaw, like it, like, puts their face, they have to bite the curb, and he kicks their head in. The
American
most
History X.
disgusting, awful.
Is that what,
Yes,
American History
yes.
X? Yeah.
Like, how could you, I don't know, how could you love someone that like that could do that?
Well, and he
So
also played in
anything like
Fight
that.
Club. So like he played
Oh
in
no, I know. So
like
it's not the actor, it's the character for that one.
yeah. He
Um do you know what? Uh a person, um uh an actor, the real person, um I cannot um get behind Sean Penn.
okay.
Um I so I worked with him for 6 months straight, um on All the King's Men. And
Yeah.
at the time, so I eventually, I I was Jude Law's stand-in and photo double for, so I was there every day for 6 months. Um, and he was the main character. He was the narrator, so he was in every scene. So so 6 months there every day on set. And Sean Penn played um, the governor of Louisiana,
Hmm.
Huey P. Long, who gets assassinated.
Yeah.
Well, Sean Penn is a method actor, and I do not agree with method acting. Um, living as the character. Method actors live as the character. So if you're playing an asshole and a bully, then you are an asshole and a bully for
Yeah.
the entire time that you are filming, even offset. So that's what he did. Huey P. Long was a bully, and he ran the state like a mob.
Right.
And so Sean Penn treated everyone like shit for 6 months on set. I cannot get behind. I do not use method acting. I like Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks and people like that. They literally they'll be crying and whatever, and then they'll yell cut, and they'll be, okay, how was that? And like, there's no. Those are the people that because that's technique. You can recreate that. It's technique. People
Yeah.
who are method actors, they'll go up to a director and they'll say, "You get 3 takes. That's it."
Oh my
Because
gosh.
they are throwing shit at they're just pulling up all that emotion, going rah, and you can't control that. So I do not respect it, because I've been the brunt end of it before. Sean Penn was one time. He, like, literally, there was nobody at craft services, and I'm just this is a non-union state, so I was not protected by SAG at the time.
Wow.
It was in Louisiana, and I wasn't in SAG yet, and they don't protect the stand-ins and all that kind of stuff. So he literally came up. There's nobody at craft services. I was standing there. He came up and pushed me out of the way, and just like, get the hell out of here, whatever, all. But that was how he was to everyone.
It'd be
For
interesting to
that film.
hear how he used method acting. I mean, because he's had some major roles, even played Harvey Milk.
No, I mean,
Like, I
he was
wonder.
amazing. He was amazing in that.
Mhm.
He was amazing. He is a creative, amazing actor. You can get great performances. I just don't respect the process.
Right. Especially dealing with somebody
And
like playing all the Kingsmen, where it's like that's a horrible individual that he had to play. So I can't
yeah,
imagine dealing with that kind of method actor on that kind of movie. So it's awesome that you were Jude Law's stand-in, though. Like, that's crazy. So, let's
it
talk about
was
that. Wow.
that was amazing. That was my introduction to the Hollywood world. That was my first job.
Wow.
Was as Jude Law's stand-in and photo double, and he was a gentleman. He was so wonderful and so nice. It's just the ugly parts are not necessary, like,
Yeah.
for method actors. Um, I don't know what Jude uses, but he was lovely all the time. He was so nice to me when he did not have to be. No one has to be. You know. Um, and he was so nice. I He found out that I was having trouble getting to set, like, a couple months in. We'd been working together for a couple months, and then I didn't have a car at the time, and I was struggling getting rides to set. Because I was late a couple times, I guess. And so he found out, that the studio, the movie studio, had got him a house, and it was literally about 3 blocks away from my house. Um, uh, so he found that out, and he's like, "Oh, well, I'm just driven to set every day." He's like, "We have the same call time since you're my stand-in." So he had the driver picked me up, and I would sit in the back seat, and he sat in the front seat, and he drove me to set every day. Like,
Oh
that
my
was
goodness. That's
so sweet
amazing.
and so nice. It was so sweet and so nice. I, like, was blown away by the generosity. Um,
Wow.
yeah, that's just, like, comforting to know there's such good people in Hollywood.
Well, I think you just made everyone a fan of Jude Law. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, unfortunately, we are going to have to close out the show. It's been such a great pleasure to have you on. I mean, you were the first at so many things. You're an actor that's doing some amazing roles, and you kind of showed us the progression, full circle of, gay roles when you started versus gay roles now. And I think it's the point of what we're doing this show for is that visibility, and you have kind of been a pioneer on that. So we just want to thank you for being on the show with us today.
Well, thank you for having me on. And I came on because I am obsessed with what you guys are doing. I've listened to a bunch of the podcasts, and It's the good in the world that people need. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We do appreciate hearing that. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Don't forget to come on back now. I know we all love a little vibration, so if you are not already, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. And we will surprise you on occasion with a new release vibration in your pocket. But in the meantime, if you find yourself alone or crossing new horizons along the Rainbow Trail, and you need a friend or even a laugh to get you through those dark and stormy nights, holler on out to us at www.weatheringrainbows.com, where you can find shelter in the blogs, videos, and other episodes that will hopefully keep you out of a whole heap of trouble. So until next time, y'all, giddy up, be true to yourself, and make the best of life. And wherever the wild tracks may lead you, may the rainbow always touch your shoulder.